All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Today we have another shotgun slug test for you guys, and I'll be honest, not a whole lot of planning went into this video because I was just browsing the internet the other day and I came across these slugs and I thought we have to test those out on the channel. So the shotgun slug we're going to be testing today is called the S.O.B. This is the package it comes in. They sell little boxes of 3, and this is the shotgun slug itself. It's an all brass slug, very unique looking. I don't know if you can really see it through the plastic shell. I will try to run some pictures to give you a better look at it. But what really sold me on these is the description online said this is the world's most effective self-defense shotgun slug. So we're definitely gonna see about that. All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and give you all the full description on these. And personally, I know nothing about this round. It's my very first time ever shooting it. So I'm just gonna read to you what it says on the website. So this is the full description. Introducing a new slug round created by Holy S Ranch, the S.O.B. This round features a 235 grain solid brass slug that travels at 1,200 feet per second. Already sounds kind of interesting. Upon impact, the slug is designed to collapse, creating massive damage to the intended target. Then it goes on to say, one of our friends said this is the 12 gauge equivalent of dropping 155 millimeter high angle hate, hence our item number, which is G12-155. Then at the very bottom, it says, this is the ultimate personal protection round. I'm not gonna lie, that last part is definitely what sold me. Now, the shotgun we're gonna use for today's video is my new favorite pump action shotgun ever, the Mossberg 590 RM. And the reason we're using this shotgun, aside from the fact that it's awesome, is because it does not use choke tubes. And these slugs clearly state in bold letters, not to be used with choked shotgun barrels. Smooth bore only. I assume because they are solid brass, number one, and they're shaped incredibly weird. I don't know what would happen if you shot one out of a cylinder choke, but we're not gonna find out today, so. Smooth bore it is. Now, one more thing I want to mention before we start shooting these is the price. Like I said, they come in these little 3-round boxes, and one of these packages is $35. So I got 3 boxes, 9 slugs total, and it was over $100 after tax, shipping, and everything included. That is way too expensive. I will say sometimes people compare defensive ammo to target ammo when they price things out, and I don't really think that's fair because most likely you're not gonna shoot your defensive ammo. It's just gonna sit in the gun and hopefully you never have to use it besides, 1 or 2 rounds just to check the zero and stuff like that. But I still think $35 for 3 shotgun slugs is way too expensive. Not gonna dispute that. For that price, they better turn bad guys into clouds of dust and then ash on the ground, which I have a feeling they're probably not gonna do. All right, we got steel targets, probably 30 yards down range. I have 1 of our S.O.B. slugs in the magazine here. Again, with the price of these things, I'm not just gonna shoot frivolously into nothing, but we will try 1 on steel just to see how it feels. Very first one, here we go. Okay, so first of all, that is way less recoil than I was anticipating. I'm just realizing 235 grains is extremely light for a 12 gauge slug. 44 Magnums weigh more than that. So I guess it makes sense that they don't kick very hard, but I will say it absolutely smoked our steel plate down there. So they do pack a punch. I'm curious to see how they perform in an actual soft target. And just to give you a comparison, this is a regular 1 1/8 ounce 12 gauge shotgun slug. Look at the recoil difference. More recoil, more gas, definitely louder, and I'll be honest, it looked like that one hit the steel. Probably 3 times harder than the S.O.B. So my first impression after shooting 1 round is they do feel a little bit underpowered, I'll be honest. Recoil is usually a pretty good indicator of energy you're gonna get on target. So the more it pushes the shooter back, usually the harder it's gonna hit and the more damage it's gonna do on the target down range. But one thing to consider with self-defense ammo is less recoil might not be a bad thing because it's gonna give you less muzzle rise, less time off target, and much quicker follow-up shots. So we'll just have to see how they perform in a soft target, but right now, I do wish they were a little more powerful. Okay, so I just shot a second S.O.B. slug to get a point of impact for the test we're about to do, and look what it did to the shell casing. It's like those fins or spikes or whatever you want to call them tore the plastic as it left the shell. And this is the first one that we shot. It did not do that. So I don't think this is how they're supposed to look. That might not be a good thing. All right, guys, I have a chronograph on the table here, and before we test this slug, I want to check the velocity. So on the box, it's advertised at 1,200 feet per second, which is pretty slow for a shotgun slug, I'll be honest, but I assume that was probably tested out of a longer barrel. Most defensive shotguns are around 18.5 inches. So I want to see what kind of velocity we actually get versus what's advertised on the box. Okay, we got the S.O.B slug. I'm actually going to use an over-under for this one because it doesn't have a flash hider or a muzzle device on the end. It's just smooth all the way down. So maybe this will give us a little bit more pressure and increase the velocity, but it's still an 18.5 inch barrel. Just shooting one because, again, they're like $10 a piece, so let's see if we can get it. And it says error. Well, that sucks. Now that's interesting. That one also shredded the plastic shell inside the shotgun. So that's two different guns that it looks like the slug is breaking apart before it even leaves the barrel. We'll go ahead and try another one. Please give me a velocity. 1251. And that one did not break apart inside the chamber. So that shotgun shell is perfectly fine. It's interesting that they seem to be kind of inconsistent when it comes to staying intact as they go down the barrel, because we've had a few now break apart inside the chamber, which is probably why we got an error on that first chronograph attempt. And then the second one just remained intact and performed perfectly fine. And that's two different shotguns now, so not a good sign. And hopefully y'all can see what it says on that chronograph, 1,251 feet per second. So I stand corrected on the velocity. I thought we would get less than the 1,200 feet per second that they advertised on the box because we're shooting it out of a shorter barrel, but we actually got more at 1,251 feet per second. So maybe they did actually test these out of an 18-inch barrel when they came up with that velocity. What I don't like is some of these are definitely not making it down the barrel before they break apart, and it actually looks like it's happening in the chamber before they even leave the shotgun shell, because you can see the plastic has been ripped on 2 or 3 of these shells now. And both of these shotguns are smooth bore with no choke tubes. Not that that would matter, because clearly it's happening way before it gets to the end of the barrel. So I'm not sure what that's about or what's causing that, but when they work, they do perform well and actually exceed the advertised velocity that's on the box, which is something you don't see very often with ammo. Hey guys, before we go any further, I want to take just a minute to tell you all about Checkmate Magazines, who is sponsoring today's video. And this is a company whose products you likely already own, because Checkmate has been making OEM mags for all the most popular brands for years. High quality, 100% American made, and they're backed by a lifetime warranty to ensure superior quality, reliability, and performance. They're always expanding their product line, so be sure to go check them out, and they're currently giving away a pretty great prize package. I'll put more information on that down in the description box below. So Checkmate Mags, go support them because they support our channel, and again, I want to thank them for sponsoring today's video. How about a little watermelon test? I've got 2 watermelons, and we'll try 2 different slugs and see which one does better. First up, we've got the S.O.B. Let's see what it does. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't expecting much after shooting these slugs a little bit. That was way more impressive than I thought it would be. There's pieces of watermelon all the way by the wood line, probably 30 or 40 yards away, and it just covered the entire property. For a shotgun slug, that might be the best watermelon explosion I've ever seen. Wow. Well, that's gonna be kind of hard to beat. Next up, we'll go ahead and try our regular hollow point deer slug and see how it compares. By the way, shout out to Optics Planet for sending us this optic. We do have a discount code with opticsplanet.com. If you shop there, use code ONESHOT at checkout and you will get a discount. They help us out quite a bit, so definitely go check them out. I think the last one went a little bit high. I'm gonna try to hit it in a similar spot. I don't know. I think I got more watermelon on me from the second one. It just kind of came back this way, but the S.O.B definitely launched watermelon much further away from the table, like several times further. So kind of two different results. I'm honestly impressed with the S.O.B slug because I didn't think it would even be close, and it might have actually won. Okay, so this is what I'll say after shooting these slugs a few times. When the S.O.B works properly and stays intact, it is absolutely epic. Very effective shotgun slug, lightweight, low recoil, but clearly does a lot of damage to the target. Unfortunately, there's something happening like 50% of the time that's causing them to break apart inside the chamber before they even leave the barrel. And that's happened with 2 different shotguns now. So I'm not sure what's causing that, but it's kind of hard to recommend at this point because, as you know, you are responsible for every projectile that leaves your barrel. And sending 15 to 20 fragments down a hallway in a self-defense scenario is probably not a good idea. So if they could fix that, I would say it's definitely a good slug. All right, guys, now it's time for the test that should give us the most information, and it's definitely the one that I'm the most curious about. So on the table, I have a 16-inch clear ballistic shell block. It's honestly not so clear anymore. I've used this one probably 4 or 5 times, so it is getting a little bit cloudy, but it should do the job, and we can definitely see how this slug performs. And hopefully this will show us the collapsing effect or whatever it says this slug does on the box. Ballistic shell test, let's go. All right, we got our S.O.B slug in the magazine here. It is a pretty light projectile, so I'm hoping 1 ballistic shell block is enough, but let's see what it does. Okay, that looks extremely nasty from here, but it looks like it's breaking apart in flight because we have entrance holes all over the front of that ballistic shell block. I don't think that's how it's supposed to work. Let's go check it out. And once again, here is our shell casing, and you can see that it tore the plastic shell just like the other one. So that would kind of support the theory that it's breaking apart before it hits the target. And I don't think that's how it's supposed to perform. So either way, there's our entrance holes on the front of the ballistic shell. I mean, at 5 yards, it's absolutely, devastating for sure. I mean, we have probably 15 to 20 entrance holes all the way around that main projectile. So go over to the side, those little pieces all penetrated, probably 4 to 5 inches. That might be how it's supposed to perform. I just don't see how that would be effective, any further than 5 to 10 yards. Those aren't gonna make it very far. Either way, definitely a nasty result. And then the main projectile penetrated all the way down to, I would say, 13 to 14 inches in the ballistic shell. Okay, I flipped our ballistic shell around. Unfortunately, I only have 1 gel block out here today, but I'm giving us a fresh side. I went and got a different shotgun. This is the HS-12 over-under, also smooth bore. Of course, we got the same shotgun slug. We're gonna see if we get a different result. Not sure where to hold this one, but different result. Now that looks a little bit better. I think that is definitely how they're supposed to perform. And as you can see, it's smoking, but our shell casing does not look abnormal like they did out of the 590 RM. So, all right, so that one went in right there. I aimed a little bit high because I wasn't sure of the holdover. Luckily, it did mostly stay in the ballistic shell, I think, but we've got 1 entrance hole as opposed to on the other side, we had like 20, so that's a good start. And then if we look in the ballistic shell, you can see where those fragments started to come apart almost immediately. So it still looks like the furthest one only penetrated 5 or 6 inches. So pretty much identical to this one, they're just not spaced out quite as far. And it's cool, we have mirror images of test 1 and test 2 and the same ballistic shell block. At 5 yards, I would honestly say I might prefer that result over that one, but of course, anything further than that, this would not be what you want. So definitely a nasty first few inches. The large portion of the slug continued down the ballistic shell block and came to a stop right there. Once again, probably 14 inches into the gel is where it stopped. Definitely enough penetration. Again, pretty similar to the first one that we shot. The main projectile also probably made it 13 or 14 inches in the gel. So still a pretty low energy slug, I'll be honest. You can see when it hits the gel block, it doesn't like throw it off the table or even really lift it up very much like shotgun slugs typically do. But all things considered, it is definitely a very effective round. Is it the ultimate personal protection round? Probably not. I think your basic deer slug off the rack at a hardware store would probably be equally, if not more effective than something like this. They're heavier, they're going faster, they pack more energy on target. Just all around, slugs are known to be extremely effective rounds. This is definitely more of like a premium niche self-defense 12 gauge slug, but I mean, you can't deny the results. That's definitely not something I would want to be shot with. So let's compare it to a deer slug and just see what the difference is. All right, we got our regular hollow point deer slug. If you're curious, this is the package that they came in right here. It is a sterling slug and the price is still on the box. So $7.95 for 10 slugs compared to $35 for 3. I think the price is a little bit better on these, so. Let's see how it performs. I'm gonna try to put it below that first one. And there's our entrance hole from our second slug right there, dead center on the ballistic shell block. So definitely a good hit. I was trying to put it underneath all the other stuff that we got going on in there. Don't know if you guys can see the wound cavity. It's definitely not as impressive as the S.O.B. I mean, didn't really expect it to be, but still a pretty good wound cavity. You can see the wad almost made it, you know, probably a third of the way into the gel at least. And then a little over the halfway mark, we have 2 really big pieces of lead that broke off of that slug. Hopefully you guys can see those. It looks like the majority of that projectile did continue down the ballistic shell and exit out the other side. Unfortunately, we were not able to stop the projectile. I think if we had a second gel block, it might be really impressive because we could see how it stopped, what it looked like, etc. But either way, I think we get the point. Definitely more energy on target, bigger, heavy projectile, more penetration as well. It's harder to say one is better than the other because it just depends what you're looking for. The S.O.B. does have a more impressive wound cavity, especially early on. That's a fact. But you know, you might want more penetration. And I think for like big animals and stuff like that, there's no doubt about it. The deer slug would definitely be more effective. But for self-defense, you might not want that amount of penetration because it could result in over-penetration, which is usually something you want to avoid. I'm not going to tell you one's better than the other. I think with price and everything considered, the deer slug is definitely the better bang for your buck. But again, it all just depends what you're looking for. So do with that information what you will. All right, guys, there it is, the S.O.B. 12 gauge slug. I don't know, man. It just feels like another G2 RIP or some gimmicky round like that. I don't hate it. I definitely don't love it. It's a little underwhelming, if I'm being honest. I expected more. It's also concerning that I'm having problems with it out of the 590 RM, which has given me no issues with any other slug that we've tried, or any shotgun shell that we've tried for that matter. So not sure what that's about. I could be doing something wrong. I don't know what that would be, but never underestimate my ability to fail at something easy. I've done it before. Now, are they the ultimate personal protection round like they claim? Probably not. Would I use them? Yes. Are they effective? Yes. Are they overpriced? Absolutely. $35 for 3 12 gauge slugs that really don't do anything other slugs aren't gonna do is kind of crazy in my opinion. I mean, they look cool in ballistic shell and stuff like that, but as far as actual effectiveness, I think you can get the same result for a lot less money. I'm trying not to be too negative, but at the same time, I definitely want to be honest, and I don't want people to go out and spend that kind of money on slugs that are gonna be underwhelming for the most part. So, hope y'all enjoyed it. If you did, let me know down in the comments below. As always, hit that like button for me, guys. I would really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.